Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. This is Omobola Stephen, the host of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. The show focuses on personal development and self-improvement. We occasion experts and professionals who are adept in the topics of self-improvement and personal development. We've come to realize in the passage of time how important personal development and self-improvement is in order for us to transform from where we are to where we need to be. Most times in our life, we find ourselves in a situation where we remain stuck and also frustrated, forlorn, confused, and we don't even know how to navigate through the tides of life. Now, when we begin to look inwards and ask the questions that we need to ask, I guarantee you, the answers will always come. And also, when the answers come, are you ready to embrace the changes that comes along? Now, this is a very profound truth that you and I have to realize with the passage of time, having to realize the importance of embracing changes in order for us to really live a really fulfilling and transformative life at the end of the day. It's worth the effort if we don't give up. Today, I have Donna Star, who is an executive coach and author. Donna specializes in helping high-performing corporate executives and audiences become more self-aware, empowered in their decision-making, and also create sustainable changes from the inside out. What a great topic of discussion we'll be having today with my guest, Donna Star. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Omobola. I'm thrilled to be here.
Loving the energy already, Donna. Looking forward to a great time. I've been introduced you as an executive coach and also an author, and Liz also shared your mission out to the world. What lit the spark?
Say the last part again, sorry.
My audience like to know what lit the spark.
What lit the spark? That's such a great question. I think I always had the spark. I just didn't know that I could use the spark on myself. I always thought the spark had to light everybody else. So I wanted to make my employees better. I wanted to make my clients happy. I wanted to make my leadership team happy. I wanted to make my kids happy, my partner, my family. So I always had a spark to do and be productive and change and grow. But I didn't turn the spark on myself until my late 50s, when I decided to make a career change and life changes. And I didn't even know what to do with the spark. I was like, oh, I get to use it on me. I get to use all this positive energy on me, to do what I want to do now. And once I started doing that work, it's been like a trajectory that I could not have ever predicted the last 4 years.
Oh, all right. So we like to talk much about women productivity, career shift, work-life balance. It's been a struggle for every woman out there if we must come to this realization. So what do you think is the work-life balance every woman needs?
Well, I think every woman needs to decide what that balance means to them. For me, I was a single mom raising 2 kids, and the balance, I wanted to be there for their school activities. And I wanted to, when they were younger, I lived near the school, so I was able to volunteer in the rooms. But I also missed a lot because I was on planes, trains, automobiles, traveling for my career. I think work-life balance, though, is about giving yourself some grace as well, because we give to so many other people. And a lot of women that I coach, they don't want to give it to themselves. So working out makes them feel guilty, or going out with friends, or squeezing in enjoyment. And I think those things are necessary. You're going to have weeks where you work 70 hours, especially if you're an accountant or whatever during season. So I don't think I think work-life balance is a constant fulcrum of juggling act. But what I see is a lot of women don't add themselves into that. And so for me, work-life balance is A, you have to define it, what it means to you, and B, you have to be the architect of work-life balance. You can't let somebody else dictate that. You have to take control of that in your own life.
Right now, so looking at professionals at all stages of their career, as they transition and evolve, you're also in the situation. So you know what I'm talking about. When is the right time to opt out and also to opt in as they face lifetime decisions? Now, lifetime decisions in terms of tackling family and friends and challenges and also adjustments to jobs.
Well, I think right now, if I'm just going to talk topically, there's so many people that are either, I'm certified as a leadership coach, but also transition. And I think for the most part, we're always in some state of transition. And right now, I think so many people are looking for jobs. You know, it's still a healthy jobs economy in the US, but so many people are looking for jobs. So I feel like women should always be looking. They should always be updating their resume. They should always be working on their accomplishments. It helps with performance reviews. It helps with interviews. A lot of people think they interview well. They actually don't interview as well as they could. So I spend a lot of time on that. So I don't think the right time is when you lose your job and you're in transition. I think it's an always on, what, you know, how do I want the world to see me? What can I do to stay ahead of the curve? I think a lot of people get really, and I don't mean this in a bad way. When I say complacent, you have families, you have lives, you have personal lives, you have job. It's hard to fit it in, but there's nothing more important than advocating for your own career. You know, that's how you pay for your life. And also, we're only here for one life. So isn't it important that we like what we do? Now, I know there's the reality of putting food on the table. So I'm not advocating that everybody quit their job and you know, go work at a petting zoo, you know. I think, but I don't think we have to be miserable and take it as the status quo. I don't think we're here long enough on this earth to settle for that.
Donna, don't you think there's a lot of expectations that is on us women in the society? We have to be this, we have to be that. And then we're struggling to also find our own identity. How do you think we can come out of this rut?
You know, it's so funny because I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, but I was watching a thread the other day about a woman who put mom in her title. You know, when you can put mom, author, speaker, executive coach, and a recruiter told her to take mom out of there because professional. Oh, what happened? Sorry about that. And why is it unprofessional to be a mother? So we have to go into the workforce like we're not having kids, or if we do have kids, that they're not going to impact our job, but we're not allowed to talk about being a mom in our interview or as a human. And being a mom makes you, even if you're not a mother, the multitasking that's involved with being a parent is like, you could be a project manager tomorrow with that. So how I feel about it is that I think there are some unfair rules, unwritten rules about women in the workforce. Can't be too emotional, you know, all of that stuff, which I think is really pure nonsense, right? Like we should bring I mean, I'm not advocating that you cry every day at work, but I think it's okay to show emotion. And I think that's and I feel bad for men too. If I'm going to throw men into the mix, they can't be emotional because there's a lot of societal restrictions on men as well. So I think women have to forge their own path. That's why you do what you do. And that's what I do, because we don't want the status quo. You know?
Right, forging our own path, that can lead some certain kind of women to decide that they want to have a shift from being a career to a business owner. And some decided, I don't want to be a business owner, I would rather be a career woman. And some decided I'm not going to opt for this too. I would just rather be stay at home mom, you know, and take care of the kids, face the home front. So what businesses, in terms of having a career shift from being a career woman to a business owner, when you begin to realize some changes need to occur in your life, what kind of business do you think is best for the future of those who desire to have a business?
I think having your own business is a very, very important decision because, I was fortunate because I was just about done paying for my daughter's college. So the timing was right for me. So I went, even though I love being my own business owner, my big financial nuts were about to be done, or so I thought, by the way, because I guess it's never really done. But being a business owner means you're isolated. You have freedom, but you're isolated. You have financial freedom, but it costs you money out of your own pocket. You have to pay for your own benefits unless you're on somebody else's, which I am not. So there are a lot of things to consider about being your own business person. And a lot of people, and I was in corporate for 34 years, it's really nice to have a paycheck, to have benefits, to have your career architected, know what your job is, and to execute on that. So I think you really have to do some deep soul searching to see what's best for you. And even being a stay-at-home mom, being a stay-at-home mom is probably the most important job on the face of the planet, or being a mom. Like if you decide to stay home, good for you. There should be no guilt in any one of those categories. Do what's best for you. But know that if you decide after being a stay-at-home mom that you want to go back to work, there's so many ways to present yourself in a way that shows that you are ready for a career move, as opposed to, I've been home for 10 years. You've been the CEO of your house. So I think women underestimate the power of their capabilities when they are stay at home. And I think there's learnings everywhere. So I don't have a best size. What I would say is pick the lane that's right for you and know that nothing's permanent, nothing's infinite. This is just a moment in time. So if you want to be a career woman now, great. I'm an entrepreneur, but I was in my 50s until I did that because I had the financial freedom-ish to do that. I didn't have the financial freedom to be a stay-at-home mom. So I made the best of it that I possibly could. And I feel like just stop judging each other. Do what's best for you.
Thanks, Donna Star, for sharing that all with my audience. Finding forging a home path as women, some of us are pursuing career and business and other purpose in life. Do you agree with me on that?
Do I have what?
Yes. Now, some of us are pursuing a career, we're pursuing businesses that does not align with our true purpose in life. So the question my audience will like for you to address is, how can we begin to align ourselves back to our true identity, back to purpose? Now, we want to begin to do a job. We want to begin to find ourselves in careers or in businesses that really aligns with our true purpose in life. How can we begin to have this mind shift? Because we realize we are already stuck. How did I find myself in this situation? These are some of the questions that are, popping from our own minds. How can I get out of this rut? How can I truly find my way back to true purpose?
That's such a great question. So I didn't know what my true purpose was. So I want to say for everybody listening, it's not always abundantly clear what our purpose is, right? People say they want to help people, but there are about 8 million professions where you can help people. And one thing I want to say is there are no mistakes. I learned that in coaching, and I fought that phrase really hard. But for me, helping people was what I did in my corporate career. So this is sort of an extension, but I have a little more freedom and I get to help people change their lives. So it's like I've totally aligned with who I've always been. But I do think there's some soul searching that you need to decide what's most important to you in your career. And if it's making money for my kids or my family, there's no judgment. If it's that I want to help people and I don't feel aligned in this job, a lot of people leave jobs because their values aren't matching up. If you need to work at a company that has values, like the other day, I was with a friend, probably shouldn't say this on radio, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's legal in New York. I went to a cannabis store. There are a million of them in the city, but the one I went to choose with my friend was all the money went back to a homeless crisis in New York City. So we have choices. I know I'm not answering your question so directly. I think it all comes back to your why. Why are you here on this earth? What makes you excited? And when I coach, I definitely spend a lot of time getting people to talk about that. Eliciting, you have to sometimes pull it out of people because it's so buried. Their purpose is so buried deep inside them because they put it aside for so many years. So I first sometimes I even do a meditation with people just to get them to calm down and then talk about what their purpose is. And then once we know the why, then we can start actioning against that. So I wish I had a magic wand and told you that I have a very simple way to do it, but only you know what your purpose is. I'm just there to help you excavate it, is what I say to my clients. Like, it's here somewhere. My guess with you, Omobola, is that you always knew that you were here to help people and to drive change and be a disruptor. Like, that seems like who you always have been. And now you find a career that's completely aligned everywhere for you. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for that, Jonah. I'm humbled by your words. I'd like to talk about mindset. You also focus on this expertise. The sole purpose or one of the missions of the show, Life Well Lived, is for us to begin to have a transformative mindset shift. We all find ourselves in old programming and paradigms that have left us, in a rut. We've been navigating through life, so much confusion, helplessness, having expectations on people in our spaces, and yet we are not getting the results that we truly desire out of life. So I would like you to take a cue from your own personal experience. How does a person know they need a mind shift, right? At what point in time or at what point in their lives they can truly tell themselves, Omobola, I think it is time for you to begin to have a mind shift?
Well, first of all, I think everybody on the planet could have mindset shifts, because we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80 to 90% of those are negative, right? They're not our thoughts aren't our friends, as I've been trained. So I think everybody can have a mindset shift, but I'll share my biggest mindset shift. And I'm so grateful that I hired a mindset coach when I got into coaching, because I had my corporate hat on that said, you got to work. I was a workaholic. I wrote a book about being a workaholic. I thought the harder you worked, the greater the reward. The more I beat myself up, the better the upside. And then if I wasn't beating myself up, then I must be lazy, that I couldn't take my foot off the gas pedal. And then I worked with a mindset shift, coach, and she was like, that's old programming, to use your language. How do you want to feel? Maybe ease is what you need to bring into your life. So for me, and I'll give you a very specific example of a mindset shift. If I didn't win an account when I was in corporate and I was in sales or whatever, I would beat myself up. Oh, I must be terrible. I'm the worst salesperson. I'm the worst account person. And then I would just spiral into thinking I was probably going to lose my job. My son always, not even a question. My son calls me every time I'm on a podcast, even when I shut my stuff off. So I apologize about that. So that was my programming. When I got into coaching, I was like, well, I need to have X amount of clients. If I don't win every single client, then I must be a bad coach. And blah, blah, blah. And I was working with my coach one day, and she said, oh, you're doing great. You're winning business. You're getting new clients. You're getting referrals. You're getting renewals. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, what do you mean? Yeah. And she said, do you think the other shoe's going to drop? What's going on here? And I said, yeah, because, in corporate, you can't get too high or low. You have to manage you manage your emotions, because if you get too high, you're just going to crash, all that corporate BS. And I said, yeah, I'm worried the other shoe's going to drop. And she said, and I won't swear on your podcast, you're the effing shoe. And it lit me up. I wrote about it, and more people have written to me about that line than I can even tell you. But I don't have to beat myself up to be a good coach. I can be successful and be supportive of myself versus the alternative. And there isn't a single person listening here that isn't a master storyteller about how horrible they can be, how much they take personal responsibility for everything that goes wrong in the world. And it doesn't have to be like that. So now if I don't win a client, I'm like, that person wasn't meant for me. That's not part of my journey. I'm not part of their journey. And I'll get another client. And it feels so much better than beating myself up about not getting a client or not winning, a business. And it just gives me so much more peace. So I think we could all use mindset shifts, all of us, every single one of us. And I think the importance of it is it's very insidious how our thoughts work against us. And people, you can tell from people's word choices, you can tell from the way they talk about themselves. And if I say to them, would you talk to your child or your loved one or your best friend the way you're talking to yourself? The answer is universally no. So I want people to start talking to themselves as if they were their own best friend, because the gap between those two discussions is very large.
All right, Jonah, that's going to be somewhat like a tough work for us to do, especially if we, as an individual, we've gone through a lot of traumatic situations from childhood, and then we have a lot of voices chatting at us and making us feel unworthy and unloved. So I think it's a pretty challenging situations. But this is the mission of Life Leadership at Omobola Stephen. This is what we focus on. We realize the importance, of having this transformation at one point in our life. It's not going to be automatic. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something that you have to, tell yourself, I am willing to embrace the change that my life needs in order for me to move from where I am to where I need to really be. So that's just the purpose and the mission behind the podcast. Thank you once again, Donna Star, certified executive coach and author. Share your thoughts with my audience. Do you have any exciting news or any projects in the pipeline that is interesting to my audience?
I just, I wrote my book, Unsuccessfully Successful, last year, and about my corporate life. So I'm still pretty proud about that. And I believe, I want to refer back to you, that change can happen at any age, at any time. And yes, we all have trauma. Yes, we have programming that is not working for us. It's not a mountain that we're trying to climb. It's one step at a time. Change doesn't happen by saying, I want to lose 100 pounds by tomorrow. It happens 1 ounce, 1 meal, 1 choice, 1 bite at a time.
Right. Can you share your social media address on your website?
Yes, my website is D-Star Consultants. I am D-Star Consultants on Facebook and Instagram, and D-Star Coach on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I also do a bi-weekly email. So I'm very easy to find.
Absolutely. I'll go find you out on LinkedIn. Thank you once again, Donna Star. It's really been a great time as you share profound insight on personal development and self-improvement, especially to us as women, and also in life generally. I wish you best of luck in all the projects that you embark upon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was just a joy to be with you today.
It's a pleasure once again, Donna. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, a self-improvement and personal development podcast, you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms or any distribution platforms that you bump into online, or perhaps or any podcast community. Just search for Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. And if you do have a great time as we listen to professionals and experts share their thoughts on disruptive yet constructive mindship conversations on topics or subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. Omobola Stephen, I'm the host, and I need you to stay safe always. I talk to you soon.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.